Hello there people, how are we? I've got a treat for you today. I'm going to go through my DM setting strategy, which has been working pretty good for me at the moment on my fitness coaching offer. It's quite quiet in here, so this may turn into an ASMR video. Hopefully the audio will be all good. So I'm just going to go through my process, how I'm finding leads, how we're qualifying them, how we're eventually booking them in and building rapport with them, that kind of thing. Okay, so first and foremost, step one really is to qualify. And there's no point speaking with a lead if they haven't got money, they don't fit that sweet spot. Then you can have a conversation with them and waste half an hour, and it turns out they're not a perfect fit. So do they have the funds? I don't know how to draw a euro. Got a pound, a dollar, and a strange looking pound there. So now I work on Facebook, and Facebook will give you a little bit more information than what an Instagram page would, right? So we're talking, obviously profile picture, and sometimes profile picture and cover photo, and obviously their photos can actually give you quite a lot of information, but if there isn't much to go on, location can be a big deciding factor. Country, unfortunately, is a big one. Occupation. And also, the way that they present themselves, right? Their appearance. Now, sometimes it's hard to tell. People may have money and they may look quite scruffy. But usually you can tell if someone's pretty well dressed. If they're over a certain age, pretty well dressed. I'm always looking for what vehicles they've got, obviously what type of house they've got. That can usually give you quite a lot of information. But sometimes people can also be sneaky, and they may not look like they have a lot of money, but there have been plenty of occasions where in my previous role, face-to-face, if you were to judge a book by a cover, you probably think this person hasn't got much money, but then they whip out a wad of, a couple £1,000. So you can't always judge a book by its cover, but you can try and get as much information as possible. Now, a lot of these leads you can gain quite a lot straight away. Some of them you'll have to dig a little bit deeper, right? You'll have to ask a few questions. On our current offer, is about 150 to 200 pounds per month, right? So if they don't look like they're going to have that kind of disposable income available, then they're probably not worth speaking to. Okay, now the next step is finding out their current situation, if the coaching that we offer is even going to be a good fit for them in the first place, right? Current situation. Now, the whole conversation can actually be, depending on how responsive they are, it can actually be completed in a couple minutes. So this isn't a long process. These are just a few simple questions. Now, obviously, with regards to fitness, you're going to be asking them what they're currently doing for their training, what their goals are. And quite quickly, you can start to understand if they would benefit from a coach. Now, a lot of the time, these guys that we're speaking to, they would benefit from a coach, but the answers that they give are almost kind of insinuating that they don't need any help and they've got it on their own, which obviously isn't the case. So sometimes you can't take what they say at face value. You have to dig a little deeper. Current situation. Where they are now. They want to go. So your coaching, for example, in this instance, the coaching is going to be the vehicle that is going to get them from where they are now to where they need to go. Now the whole the whole duration of that conversation is going to be about positioning the coaching as the vehicle to that. But you don't want to be too blatant, right? You don't want to go into the conversation immediately as if you're going to sell them something. The whole means is to build a relationship with them, build rapport, and then kind of show a genuine interest. You're a professional in this space. As a DM setter, you're pretending to be the coach, let's say fitness coach, dating coach. So you're the expert. So you've got to act as a consultant essentially. Now, before pitching, positioning the call as the next step to get them where they need to go. Because bearing in mind, as a DM setter, the whole process is guiding them to our desired outcome. We need to make it seem like it's also their desired outcome, okay? So, step 3 is help first. Now, it's very common for coaches, consultants, that kind of thing nowadays to have free resources, free PDFs, or Canva documents, whatever it may be, to send out as a free guide. Now this shows that you're there to offer value. You're not just looking to sell them something. That really brings down their sales resistance. So if you're not using something like this, absolutely get it implemented. That's probably one of the biggest changes you could make to your current DM setting script if you're not using a free guide or something like that. Is a big one. A lot of people talk about rapport and they don't actually know what it is. It's difficult to pinpoint. Rapport is building a relationship with someone. Now, there are different ways of doing it. What I usually like to do is humor, okay? Humor is a brilliant way. Is that how you spell humor? I think it is. Brilliant way to, break down the walls of a lead and make them feel comfortable. Usually you're using humor with your friends and your family, not a stranger. So if you're busting jokes and they're genuinely funny, then the likelihood of loosening up the conversation a little bit is going to be a lot bigger. In the same breath as humor, sometimes people are busy and they may not get back to your first message, right? They're not necessarily ignoring you. They might genuinely be busy, so don't take it personally. A brilliant way to use humor to re-engage the conversation. Nowadays are memes. Now obviously, Facebook, Instagram, they've got memes built in, so you can chuck a few memes over. I like to use some Jim Carrey memes. I'll hopefully put them on the screen. Jim Carrey memes. Usually I'll type in, "Are you there?" And it's just like a little prompt to answer the question or the last message that was sent. So memes are a brilliant way to use humor to re-engage in conversation. Now, if your coach, whoever your client is that you're working for, if they've got maybe images, pre-taken images that you can use to send to prove that it's them speaking, obviously it's not. That's really gonna help as well, because sometimes you'll get questions of, am I actually speaking to this person? So photos, of coach or whatever else it may be, and voice notes. Throwing in a voice note every now and then really just makes that conversation feel more personable, right? Again, sometimes the question after question, especially in text form, it can seem like a bit of an interrogation. So a voice note, you can convey a little bit more emotion, a little bit more humor, and friendliness. So if you can, every now and then get the coach to send out a voice note, that would certainly help. And spell relatable. Hopefully you can read that. Being relatable. So it's easy to fall into that kind of consultant asking question after question. You still want to ask a question, you want to keep the conversation guided, but to be relatable and to acknowledge what they've just previously said in a relatable way, that's again, it's really going to keep the barrier, the sales resistance down from the lead, because they're going to feel like they're just speaking to a friend. Now, step 4 is give value. Now, this is kind of going back to what I just said about helping first. This is going to be resource. Free resource is a massive one. It helps if you're pretty clued in to the space that you're a DM setter for. So I'm working a fitness offer. Luckily for me, well, in fact, I've learned a lot just from working on the current offer that I'm on and learning a lot about my coach that I'm working with. So I can kind of get an idea of how he would respond to certain questions that I get. So if you're knowledgeable about the topic, that's really going to help in offering value, right? Because people are going to ask genuine questions, and if you can quickly answer that, again, it's going to be providing value. They're going to feel like they're actually talking to an expert. So when it comes to the time to pitch a call, there's a reason for them to turn up on that call, because that there's going to be more value provided. One thing I forgot to mention with the resource, catered resource. So have a few resources set up. So for example, for fitness coaching, usually people are either doing one of two things or both. They're trying to lose weight, body fat, gain muscle, or both, right? Now, if you've got 2 guides or even more specific guides, the better. You can maybe have one for different ages or, whatever else it may be, different body parts as well. If you can send a guide that's going to be specifically catered to their situation, you ask these questions and then you provide the guide, it's going to feel personal to them. They're going to feel like they're getting an exclusive deal there. They feel like they should be paying for something. And when you give something for free, that generates the feeling of needing to reciprocate that, right? If you give something to someone, naturally they feel like, well, they should anyway, if they're a decent human being, they should feel like they should give you something back. So when it comes to you pitching a call or asking, does it make sense for us to book in a call now? They're more likely to say yes to that. Step 5. Now this is necessary to have a lead turn up to the call. I mean, you can book in as many calls as you want, but in terms of getting people to actually show up 2 days later, whatever else it may be, this is vital, okay? Agitate problem and bridge to call. So they've already spoke about their problem. They've mentioned what they're trying to do. They're a couple pounds overweight, or a good bit overweight. They're trying to get to this point, or they're trying to build a bigger chest, whatever the case may be for any industry. They've told you what that problem is. Now you need to get them to solidify that in their mind. You need to get them to say it. So, for example, again, in the fitness space, asking them the question of why is that important to them. So I'm curious, why is it that you want to do this at this point in your life? Why is it important to you that you tone up, you get that 6-pack popping, whatever it may be? This gets them thinking about their problem. Once they've mentioned that to you and they've opened up, people are usually happy to open up about this, especially to strangers over a text. Once they've done that, they've made it a tangible problem in the world now. If they hadn't told anyone before, now they've made it a real problem in their head. So this cements them in a place of need, okay? This is perfect to bridge us to the call. When it comes time to pitch the call, again, there's a reason There's a reason. We're the expert. There's a reason for them to jump on a call with us now. If you don't do this, even if they book in, the likelihood of them turning up is very low. Now, talk about their pain, future vision. Sometimes asking them how they would feel, maybe not directly phrasing it in that way, but asking them how they would feel if they pull that off. Or, sometimes, for example, people will say, I'm hoping to lose this weight, I'm getting older, I want to be around for my grandkids, this, that and the other. Now, flipping that on their head and getting them to explain, how would it feel if you could become the best version of yourself so that you can be around as long as possible for your grandkids, and you can throw them on your shoulder and you can play around with them for as long as possible and create those memories. And obviously that was a long way of phrasing it, but if you can do something like that, make it emotional at this point. The more emotional, the better. If you didn't know already, sales is all about emotion. People buy with emotion, they don't buy with logic. Step 6. No pressure. Invite. Now, no pressure it's not essential. It's very, very, very handy. If people feel like they're backed into a corner, they tighten up and they refuse. They put up barriers. If they feel like they have a choice, if they feel like it's their decision that they're booking into a call, they're considerably more than likely to show up, because it's a decision that they're making, right? I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Now, this is the way that you phrase it, okay? So, again, it's usually questions. It's the way that the questions are asked. Now, obviously we know that this call is a sales call. They may have a sneaking suspicion that it is. If they're, somewhat wise, they probably will know that. If we can make them feel like it's just going to be value provided, then again, that they're going to be more than likely to show up to the call. So the way of phrasing this would be, does it make sense for us to come up with a plan over the next couple of days? The more specific with the time, the better. Does it make sense for us to come up with a plan on Thursday that you can take away over an online coffee chat? And first of all, you're asking them the question. You're giving them the opportunity to say yes or no. You're not telling them. You're not saying we should do this, or I think it would be a good idea if we do this. You're telling them. You're not selling to them. So absolutely, it's the way that it's phrased. And you should be playing around with the script anyway. And you should be able to pinpoint what works the most. But that's what I've been using, more or less, what I said previously. That's kind of what I've been using when it comes to pitching. And also, if people show any kind of hesitation, take a step back. Don't push. Again, it's reverse psychology. Hopefully, the offer that you're working on, you've got enough leads that you're not desperate for this one opportunity, because people can sense that sells. If you're desperate and you can smell blood, they can always sense that. Okay, so the more nonchalant you are about it, it doesn't matter if they do or don't book in for the call. And in fact, you can say that. You say, and whether you decide to work with us or not, you're going to have a bunch of value that you can take away and think about. That in their mind is going to be, there's no pressure. At the end of that call, if they decide no, it's not the end of the world. If they decide, yes, I'd like to move forward, happy days, that was their decision that they made. I hope that was somewhat valuable to you. I understand that was a bit of a ramble. I just wanted to get my process out there. That's more or less what I've been doing. I've been working on this offer for quite a while now, and it's starting to fall into place. The reps, I'm getting them in, and I'm getting that feedback loop down. So this is working for me. The same process can be applied to any offer you're working on, really. I'd be interested to know if you are a DM setter. First of all, drop a comment. Tell me about the offer that you're working on, some of the struggles that you're facing, or how smoothly things are going for you. And yeah, I'll be creating more videos like this. This is a bit of a strange setup, but yeah, happy days, guys. Hope you had some value from this.